We recently did a video covering how you can automate Ansible using Kestra as the backbone, and it was highly requested that we did a follow-up video covering even more things you can do with Ansible thanks to the help of Kestra. Now in our original video, we did everything on localhost, which it helps for the demo, but it doesn't really show you how you could set up Ansible in Kestra to connect to multiple different servers, kind of what Ansible's designed for. Now in this example here, I have Kestra running as a standalone instance. It's not inside of Docker, which means it can access my system's SSH keys. I've also set my workflow here to use a process task runner, which means it's going to run it as a sub-process on my machine, which means there's no Docker to get in the way and cause confusion. And then lastly, I've got namespace files enabled here. So instead of having to pass them in using an expression, I can just access my playbooks and inventory files directly from the namespace tab. Now let's have a look at what those might look like. Now just going to do a simple hello world example here, and I've set my host to servers, and now in the inventory file I have a number of different servers set up where we can run this hello world example. Now we've got 3 different IP addresses, and we've also got where they can find the SSH keys on my local system that it can use to connect to these. Now this is just one way of doing it, but let's assume you have Ansible running on a server where you also have the SSH key, so that server can authenticate with the various different places it needs to go. Now if I was to execute this workflow, what we're going to see is it's going to be able to run that hello world example on all 3 of those machines, which is really where Ansible comes in handy, is being able to set up configurations on different machines at the same time. And if we scroll down, we can actually see it was able to do it on all 3 of those servers, and we can see here that it's left us with the OK status. So all very good. Now, something you might commonly do with Ansible is configuration drift. This is where you might have multiple different servers where you want them all to run the same configuration, but someone might SSH into one manually, tweak a configuration, change an environment variable, and over time, that configuration starts to drift away from what it should be. Now, Ansible makes it easy to make sure that all those machines are still running the same configuration. What we can do here is by using this Ansible task, we can connect it with one of our schedule triggers here to always run this daily. And so if it detects any change in the configuration, it can go and update it and override the configuration that's there without having to run into any issues. So this means you might have some stuff running on these machines by default, but you want to make sure that they are still running the same configuration. You can use this with Ansible. Now there's a few differences here on how we're working with this workflow. So first thing is we're using the Ansible config. And one thing we did get asked about in the previous video was how do you configure your ansible.cfg file? Now one way is you can use this property here where you can then just define it all directly inside of here. Now if you're running Kestra as a standalone instance or even in Docker, you can put that ansible.cfg file either in the container or on your standalone machine and then set the environment variable in that environment for Ansible config to point to that path. You could also set this up in Kestra, so you can also use the env property here to be able to set up that Ansible config, and then you can point that directly to the configuration. So that's another way that you can force this task to use that configuration file. Now I've added a few things in here, specifically the interpreter Python to auto silent, because otherwise it just throws an error on my machine based on my Python configuration. But you can change this to whatever you like. Now the last 3 here, and we can actually see this if I open the documentation, you can see it will by default have these inside of the configuration. So if you are changing it, it's worth making sure you copy and paste these back in, because what this will do is it will send any outputs generated by Ansible as Kestra outputs. And we're going to use those a little bit later to help us to track whether there was configuration drift or if there wasn't, because the reality is this workflow is going to run every day, and hopefully it's never going to have to change anything. But if it does, it could be useful for it to notify us so that we know that there was configuration drift if we want to try and figure out why it happened to stop it happening in the future. Now, having a look inside the playbook, we've got a very basic example here of something you might encounter, which is setting up environment variables across different machines. Now, this one is just using an environment variable called myAppMode, and we're just setting it to production. But maybe someone might go in and change that to development or a different setting. Now, what we can do is when we run this, it's going to check that it is production, and if it isn't, set it to production, and then it's going to refresh the environment to make sure it's using that environment variable. And we're just adding it to the bash RC so that it's present across the system. Now, this is where Kestra comes in pretty handy. When we run this, we're going to get a bunch of different outputs. Some of those are relevant, some of those are not. And they're going to show us each of these different steps. So we're going to get 3 for the 3 different servers of it getting set up, that's not really too important to us. We'll get 3 for it setting this configuration, and we'll get 3 for the refresh environment. Now for simplicity, I've decided just to loop through all of these outputs and then just check if the changed property is set to true, because if it is, then we want to know what's going on there. And specifically, only those 3 in the middle are going to change, and if they do change, we can then send a Slack message which tells us the message as to what changed. You could also change this and set this to whatever you want, so it's useful to you. So if I execute this now, what we can see is it's going to run this and set up the environment. It's going to SSH into all 3 of those machines, and we can actually see it's SSH'd in. We haven't got any of those Python errors we saw earlier, and we can see that it's changed all 3 of them. So we can see that all 3 of those devices have 1 change, but it was able to run each 3 of those steps successfully. And we can see here that it has now, if we go to the GAMP view, it'll be a bit easier. It skipped over the first 3 because there was no changes. It sent us a Slack message for the next 3, and then it skipped the last 3. So let's have a quick look at Slack to see what that looks like. And as you can see here, I've had 3 notifications. The message was just line added. So you might want to go in and configure that differently, but there are tons of information, and we can have a look actually. There is a ton of data here for each of these. So you can see it was changed. We can see the message. We can also see what the diff was. So we can see that it was what it's changed. So we can see that stuff's happened here, and if we want to go in, we can go and find that out. Now I've SSH'd into one of these servers, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually modify this to actually say development, and we're going to run it again to see if it's able to detect that configuration drift. So let's have a look. So when I execute this again, it's going to run on those 3 same servers, and this time we're only going to see 1 Slack notification because there's only been configuration drift on one of those machines, and we can see that here. And if we open Slack up, we can see it just says that line has been replaced rather than line added, because this time the line already existed, but it was incorrect. So this is just one example of how you could use Ansible to detect drift in your configuration with Kestra to be able to monitor that whole situation. Now, one other question we got was about installing Ansible Galaxy Collections as well as roles. Now, just like you would if you were using Ansible in the command line, we can use the before commands part of the Kestra task here to be able to install all of those dependencies before it starts running our playbook. So here, I've just decided to install the Docker community collection, and then that will be available for me to use in my playbook in the command section. So again, just like you would using it in the command line, just chuck it here in the before command section and you should be good to go. Now, because again, I'm using this as a process task runner outside of Docker just as a standalone instance, this is installing it on my machine. So any Ansible collections I already have ready to go, this can access. So bear that in mind as well. Now, if we have a look at that Docker playbook, I've told it here to just start an Nginx container, and it's going to start that inside of Docker. And so if we go back to our server and do Docker PS, we'll see that there are no containers running. But if I was to press execute here, what we're going to see is it's going to be able to start that container and get it running. And as we can see here again, it's been successful at connecting and running that step, and it's had to change one thing. Now, if we go back to here and run Docker PS, we can see that it is successfully running. Now, let me stop the container and see what it does here. So the container's stopped, but it still exists. Now, we could run this again like I have just done here to detect if there was a drift, such as if the container stops running, and we want to be able to make sure it starts running again. So if I go back here, we can see that the container was stopped, but we can see it's up and running again. No problems at all. By running this on a schedule like I've got in this example, we can easily check if all of our different servers are running this as expected, and if they aren't running it as expected, we can easily go and restart those containers or build them again if they've been destroyed. So lots of flexibility here in managing all those different servers. Hopefully that's been helpful in understanding how you can use Ansible on a large scale across multiple machines. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments below, and if there are any other topics on Ansible you'd love to hear. If you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. It helps us out a load, and make sure to give us a start on GitHub if you enjoy using Kestra.